Hi there, I'm Richard Hill, the host of eCom 1, and welcome to episode 172. In this episode, we speak with Brad Houldsworth, Sales and Strategy Director at Remarkable Commerce. With more than 15 years in agency and client side, it was great to get Brad on the show and share his 15 years of wisdom. We cover topics around exploring new growth channels, and of course, we couldn't get Brad in and not talk about the never-ending tech stack and how to choose the right partners to work with when it comes to growing your agency. And of course, so much more in this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I think you know what to do by now, because this is 172 episodes in. Hit the like or follow wherever you are listening to this episode, so you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Now, let's head over to this fantastic episode. Well, thanks for joining me, Brad. Great to have you on the show. Now, for our listeners, I think it'd be great for you to introduce yourself and tell them of how you got into the world of e-commerce.
Cool. I'm Brad. I've been in e-commerce for probably 15 odd years-ish. So I started as a dropout of uni, and I was in a media management degree, and started working in marketing in kind of different guises. Started doing events, started doing promotion and various bits and bobs, and then I started working at a creative agency in Manchester. So that was an agency that was doing branding and a little bit of e-com, but kind of that was my introduction to the digital world, I would say. So I started doing SEO, started doing PPC for pretty decent sized clients. So the likes of Manchester City Football Club and New Balance, and we had quite a good set of clients. I was like an account manager. So I started there, and then I started doing the kind of SEO and PPC stuff, which led me to Nottingham. So I followed my wife over to Nottingham, we started living in Nottingham, and I found Remarkable. And at the time, we were a really, really small agency, some good clients. But I went there to start a marketing function. So we went and we created a team. So I was the kind of first there, and we kind of built up an SEO and PPC team. Did that for a few years. That was cool. And then I thought, maybe I don't want to I kind of had a revelation where I was like, I'm trying to teach retailers how to trade and how to do, these channels without ever being a retailer myself. And it's one of those kind of moments where it's like, I should go and get my hands dirty. I should go and practice what I'm trying to preach almost. So I went to an education supplies company, went in as head of eCom, and did a really interesting role, kind of leading trading, merch, various kind of functions. And I was there for just shy of a year, but I learned so much from being a kind of head of eCom. I learned about, properly doing promotions, properly doing about trading. I properly learned about how to grill an agency. I learned how to evaluate technology. I learned how to do a lot of stuff. So I did that, and then I got serenaded back to Remarkable.
And I got a carrot, did they?
A little bit, a little bit. And they said, do you want to come back and do a slightly different role? We need someone to look after product and kind of our strategy, business and product, and help clients with kind of growth strategies as well. So a very strategic consultancy type of role, which sounded cool. So I went back, I took all of my knowledge that I'd learned about Demandware and the other technologies that I was using over there. So it was a really good bit of insight. I took all of that, came back to Remarkable, and we built some products, which they later got rolled into our main offering. But like the initial plan was to build out a really cool merch solution and a really cool CMS, for example, which we did. And they form what we have now as our platform. But initially, going back to 2017, I think, when I rejoined, that was the plan. And then since that point, I've kind of evolved into having, I guess, a split role. So part of my role is around marketing and sales and building the brand, which is fun. And then kind of that goes further than just kind of, it goes into onboarding and that whole kind of process as well, the pre-sale stuff.
Yeah.
And then the other side is about client work. So I do in the business, I do work with our clients as a consultant. So I work with probably about 5 or 10 clients. We have about 100-ish, but I work with a few on their strategy, helping them to kind of grow from 20 up to 50 million, and evaluating technologies, helping them to scale, helping them to better use our technology as well. So that's I guess been the past 10 or 15 years.
Wow, that's a nice rounded set of experience there. I'm loving the bit where you dropped out of uni.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to go in that. Yeah. It was, I don't know, uni is good for some people, for many people, but I guess, I don't know, I thought maybe that's not for me. And
it's one of those, isn't it? I think, the university discussion, my oldest son has just started uni.
Okay.
But a year prior, he wasn't going to uni.
What's he doing at uni?
He's doing business management at Norwich.
Yep.
So he's coming close to 3-4 months in. Loving it, but we'll see. He's 3 months out of what will be 4 years in theory if he does the full sort of gap year or the year in industry that's available to him. But university's not for everybody, isn't it?
No, it's not.
It wasn't for me, although I did go. In hindsight, the experiences that I got there were not the academic experiences that I brought with me, I believe, to work and building businesses and whatnot. But obviously, since then, you've had a lot of time working in agency, tech, and growth and marketing, but also got that experience in the middle there of working sort of client side, working in the trenches. Before we hit record, we were talking about some of the things that make up a successful eCom store, and some of the episodes that we've ran on the show. Whether we're talking about walking in a warehouse one day and just thinking, hang on a minute, wow, hang on, there's 20 people in this warehouse, there's £7 million worth of stock, there's 1,000 cons going, or whatever. It's like, hang on a minute, there's a lot more to it than I think some of the guests, 100%. Some of the listeners may think, when they listen to a couple of the episodes about SEO specifically. I think that would be good we'll jump into some of the tech side.
Sounds good.
So I think it'd be good for you to give us a run through of the Remarkable Commerce. The sort of differences in your platform.
Yep.
Some of the other sort of tech partners and platforms that we've had on the show.
Cool. So 3 big differences. First of which is it's a solution we have where it's not SaaS. So every retailer doesn't have the same. We have a core product, which we then hive off, and each client has their own version of it, which means ultimately that from a functionality and features point of view, although you get out of the box, you can then take it in the direction you want it to go. So you're not locked down to, okay, this particular feature only works in this way, or I'll have to buy a load of add-ons for something else to work in a different way. It's a very, very customized, fully configured solution. That's the big difference. And of course, there are more monolithic solutions which you can customize, of course. I'm not going to go into naming platforms, I'm not into that. But there are some that you can customize in certain ways. But ultimately, there's always a ceiling to it. That goes into the second point, which is around how remarkable is the platform, but also the agency that delivers it as well. So you don't have the whole debacle of agency versus, blaming the platform and the platform saying, well, the agency just implemented it poorly, for example. So, we're one and the same. So it's one cost center, for example, and it's the same team that wrote every line of code in that platform working with you as a retailer on your version of the platform. So it's the agility, the first thing. The second thing is around the platform and the agency being all in one. And we don't really have, some platforms have a suite of agencies who also develop on their platform. We don't have that. However, that said, we do have some retailers that have their own developers in-house, which is cool. So if they want to have their own admin and then just use our front end, that's cool. If they want to use their own front end and just use our admin for certain things in a very headless, composable way, then that's cool as well. That's the first. And then the other one is commercially. So commercially, we are very different as well as a technology. We don't allow, we don't do a whole GMV model where we take a commission of orders, commission of revenue. We just don't believe in it. We think that as a retailer, if you have an awesome weekend and have an amazing sale, the platform, of course has to stay up and work, but what more did it do other than just, being stable? So taking more money for just you being successful as a retailer feels a little bit weird. So we don't abide by that, which is most enterprise solutions have that type of model. Some lean into it, and it's for some retailers, they like that. It's variable. We think fixed costs are a better solution. So we have a tiered solution based on traffic, not revenue. So based on your traffic, it's your job as a retailer to convert that traffic. But we have kind of 4 levels, and they're very sensible as well. So it's not, it's good enterprise grade technology without having the £1 million price mark. Those are the 3 main differences.
No, it sounds quite a sort of hybrid sort of option, but that's the right word or not.
No, it is. Yeah.
I think, the challenge, we've just come out of, or possibly still in, a peak season, for a lot of retailers, and obviously getting penalised potentially for that double, triple traffic that you might have got in peak season, Black Friday, it's long gone, but around that time, Christmas, etc. Obviously now, probably listening to this, a lot of those bills need to be paid usually, whether that's for the stock in the 7 million quid we referred to earlier, and making sure that cost for the platform and the technology is, got that sensible, whether there's some increases in some tech, but there shouldn't be, if it's 3 times the amount of orders, 3 times the amount of traffic, maybe it is 3 times the amount of cost, but if it's a tiered process.
It's, we do it, we're all about fairness. I'm big on fairness. And so we review annually. So we'll say, over the last 12 months, what's your average annual month of traffic? And that's what will base your tier. So you might have a really good month, you might have a really good few months. That doesn't mean that you're going to pay more. That just means your average might be slightly more, and you might then tip into the next tier. You might not. But we review it annually, so ahead of time, a retailer knows ahead of time what their costs are going to be. The other thing which is quite interesting is a lot of platforms, historically, a lot of platforms will charge you penalties if you don't hit your targets. So certain enterprise grade technologies will say, okay, you're going to do 20 million this year. If you don't do 20 million though, we're going to charge you an extra fee because we've set up architecture and technology to be able to scale that way. However, you're not going to hit it, so actually we're going to charge you more.
So there's a resource you're not using, but we've still got to charge for it, potentially.
There's loads of different cons in those types of GMV models, which I just don't like.
There's maybe some sort of round table we need to do with other platforms that have been on one day. That's maybe for later in the year.
We've got the boxing gloves out.
We do have some round tables and various events coming up. So check out our, I think it'll be ecom1.com/events, and you may well see a couple of round tables that I know the team are working on in the background. So obviously I know you work with quite a lot of well-known high street brands, a few stores that I've shopped in. I know my teenage sons are shopping and various other brands. I just wanted to introduce you very quickly to our sponsors, Pricing. Now, Pricing is a competitive price tracking and monitoring software that can dynamically change a product's prices on all sales channels. They work with brands such as Samsung, Sony, Suzuki to increase their online revenue. Now, if you run Google Shopping, which I know a lot of you absolutely do, this software is absolutely key to accelerating profits. One of the reasons I recommend Pricing to my clients is because you can find out your competitors' pricing and stock availability all in one simple to understand dashboard, giving you a huge competitive advantage. Now, if you have any inquiries and questions about this software, or you're ready to get cracking, we have worked out a very, very special deal for our listeners where you can get a free month's trial and then 25% off for the first 3 months. Head to ecom1.com pricing and complete the inquiry form, and we will connect our listeners to the Pricing team. Right, let's head straight back to the episode. Now, obviously, we're sitting here, new year almost. Obviously, we're into a new year, a few weeks in. What are some of the growth opportunities you see for your clients this year specifically? Whether that's with the tech stack, whether that's with the marketing side of things, or anything else that you're seeing. Obviously, you're working with quite a lot of well-known brands. And I would say, success leaves certain evidence, clues, etc. And you've got, obviously, you're working, literally on the coal face with, I think you said, brands going up to sort of 20, 50 mil.
Yep.
What are some of the sort of things you're seeing that people are focusing on this year?
Diversifying the channels is one of them. I'm not talking about marketing channels. I'm talking about sales channels.
Yeah.
So introducing selling on Debenhams or John Lewis or, multi-brand channels.
Yeah.
I think if you're not doing that as a brand, that's certainly something to look into.
Yeah.
You can probably add an extra 20-30% net onto sales by doing 1 or 2 extra channels a year.
Yeah.
Essentially, that just gives you the promotion and amplification of your brand.
Yeah.
Even if it's not directly selling on those channels, retailers, I guess, are trying to build brand awareness. So the more opportunities you have to put your brand in front of a customer, the better. And if that is in a physical Debenhams store, well, John Lewis store now, or online, there's still a great opportunity there. So, yeah, I'd say that's the first one.
So I guess with that, there's certain channels that fit certain size merchants potentially. So obviously anybody can go on, Amazon, eBay. But then we start talking about some of the other platforms. Is there any sort of criteria that our listeners need to be aware of?
Having good product data is fundamental in any business. I think that's one mistake perhaps that retailers can sometimes make is not spending enough time enriching product data.
Yeah.
Both, I guess, as a multi-brand store, if you're selling products of different brands or selling your own brand, sometimes you can, I guess, not focus enough on product data. I'll come on to that in a bit, but that's one thing. In terms of assets, you probably need to think about imaging. Product images, a lot of different platforms have different criteria for product images.
Yeah.
So if you don't hold stock, that's one thing you need to think about.
Yeah.
So if you're drop shipping or if you have another model, then perhaps you need to think about how to get images of product. There's a channel I've been looking at recently called List.
Oh, right.
With a Y. It's a fashion channel.
Yeah.
I'd recommend having a look at that if you're a fashion retailer but not listed on the list yet. Have a look. You can run it as an affiliate. Yeah. So if you've got an affiliate program, you can do it through there. So it's really low cost. But yeah. Yeah, probably there's,
Yeah, I think probably how many listeners are sitting there, they're a couple of 3 weeks into the year. If you're a diehard eCom at one fan and you're watching this on launch. But 1 or 2 channels, 1 or 2 new channels, if you're sort of, so many years into this, that can be a little bit more challenging. But I think, we've done quite a lot of episodes with, for example, Feedonomics, depending on the different channels, but there's different channels in different countries, obviously, depending on, the sort of spread you want sort of nationally, whether that's European, further overseas, Australia, US, etc. It's surprising how many options there are, that can soon, as you say, maybe 20%, added. So, what channels are you not on? That's quite a interesting debate, conversation. I think some people can be a little bit, I'm not sure we can get on Debenhams. I'm not sure that's even possible, is it?
There's also a bit of a, I guess, a brand reputation thing. Like when I was the head of eCom, we were talking about, should we go on Amazon or not? And it was this massive internal thing about, what do we lose as a brand if we're on Amazon? Yes, we'll have to give away whatever it is, 5%, 6%. But is there a reputational impact of being on Amazon? And what does that do to us? And does it perhaps devalue the other core channels that we're selling on? And is that whole internal discussion that, sometimes can distract, I think, from actually a massive opportunity?
Yeah.
And I would recommend not hesitating and just going on as many channels as you can.
Yeah.
From that, I'd also say about referrals. And obviously in our B2B world, it's referrals is everything. It's new clients for us or it's... but referral marketing, I think, not enough retailers focus on it enough.
Yeah.
And obviously if you're doing referral, it's, the whole, using a solution like Mention Me, for example, or others are available.
Yeah.
And it's using your existing customers to refer their colleagues, friends, mates, family to buy from you as well.
Yeah, loyalty.
And it's that whole piece around acquisition versus loyalty. And a lot of retailers will have an acquisition team who do SEO and do email and just think about, net new customers. Not many retailers think about retention and loyalty and actually have someone who's doing proper CRM and doing proper, what's our customer lifetime value?
Yeah.
And how are we monitoring that? How are we tracking that? Yeah. How are we improving it? Yeah. And loyalty and referrals perhaps should have a bit more attention, in my opinion.
Yeah, we've done a lot on that recently. I think it makes me very angry. The amount
Really?
it's just so obvious, really. Even in any business, whether we're sitting here as agencies, obviously I think you said you got like 100 brands you work with. Well, having conversations with those 100 brands about the different services and the different things that you offer, because some of them won't know probably. A simple thing like a conversation. Yeah. However, put that into an e-commerce, simply having a loyalty program, simply as simple as having a very nice, when you open packaging, when you open the packaging, it says, hey, you're now one order away from, personalized packaging. You've got to invest a little bit in that, or you simply open it up and there's a card in there that says, hey, it's a simple, flyer from, about your brand, but also then you've got referrals from other brands as well. I've mentioned it a few times, probably a little bit too much of an addiction to caffeine and coffee and different coffee brands.
We need to talk about coffee then. Okay.
Yeah. And subscriptions. Yeah. And although I'm sort of weaned off quite a few, to be fair, more recently, and there's a couple of local firms that I've been supporting more, I'm going in there. But, during, was at the start of COVID, close on 4 years ago, it was like subscription. Yep. But the ones that really sort of won with me, and I know have done really, really well, was we've had some conversations on the podcast with them, are the ones that have got an insanely nice packaged product that then talks about where I am as a customer. Are you one order away from this, and then also recommending other products for other companies as well. So loyalty within that brand, but also recommending. So you've got loyalty and referral in one sort of packaging potentially. But personalized packaging, I think that's a beautiful thing. That obviously we've all probably had God knows how many packages delivered over the last, going back 6 weeks, Christmas and all that jazz. Some stuff comes in a brown box that's like, oh, shocker.
What is that? Which one of the 20 odds is that?
This is a nice experience sort of thing. So loyalty, retention, lifetime. One of our guys did a podcast about 4 weeks ago on it, and it's, it's just sort of a lost focus. It is, I think, on so many retailers, especially, I think when you're getting started and you're in that first million or two, it's a little bit more, acquisition. But when you've got that data in the business, I mean, even a few $100,000 to be fair, you've got that data in the business, how difficult is it with the tech that's available to segment and, educate those existing customers about other products, et cetera, et cetera. So we talk a lot on that. So I guess that brings me nicely into my next question. Mistakes. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see these, I would say, sort of mid-size, mid-tier e-com stores, these 20 million, let's take that number. I know we have a lot of a lot of merchants on the podcast that are sort of 5, 10, 20, 30 that are trying to hit that next plateau, potential plateau, or push through that next plateau. What are some of the mistakes you see with some of the guys that are trying to get through to that next sort of key turnover figure?
I'd say a lot of retailers will have what's called the dark stack. I don't know if it's been talked about before.
Oh,
no? Okay, so the dark stack is, in most businesses, you'll have your platform and your technology, but what actually runs that business is a load of Google Sheets or Excels on a shared drive or a PowerPoint somewhere or a Slack channel or a Figma file somewhere, Canva file even perhaps. All these, I call it the dark stack because all these different pieces of data are completely siloed from running your business. So your platform or your review partner or your site search or your system for using promotions, for example, all of them are disconnected from the dark stack. And it's called the dark stack because no one, it's used all the time, but it's not really on the core face. I see mistakes where there's a disconnect too vastly between that technology and your dark stack. So if you're spending all day doing reports or creating promotions or exporting and importing out of your e-commerce platform and doing stuff elsewhere and then bringing it back in, inefficiencies in those disconnected systems is the biggest challenge, but also the biggest opportunity, I would say, internally for becoming more successful. And I see, I guess, the opportunity where if you've got a technology that allows for greater connections between different systems and also the ability to get data out of those technologies, put data back into them quickly as well without having to mess about. We had a merchant come to us and they were like, oh, we want to launch a new collection on a certain X platform. To do that, we have to take an export from our PIM, mess about with it for a few hours, change loads of files, fields and etc., reformat it in a certain way, import it back into our PIM, then sync it back into the eCom platform, then put it back in somewhere else. It was like a 3-hour job for like just launching a promotion or creating a new category. That's what happens when you have disconnected systems and a dark stack over here doing something. So I would say that's absolutely vital, and a really common mistake is where you're using technology inefficiently. And that's both, obviously the technology has to allow for that, and you have to have the functionality and the features to do it, of course. But also it's a process thing. And being a retailer, you can get so in the trenches on a day-to-day basis. You're running from meeting to meeting, call to call. You don't have any time to do anything. Like, you don't have any time to go and, set a promotion on the fly. If you've got 5 minutes, you haven't got time to run a promotion. But you do if you've got good technology.
Yeah, because it's quick.
It's quick. So it is around time saving and efficiency, but you've got to have the good processes and the good systems.
So I would imagine most people are listening thinking, yeah, that's me. We've got these, we've got this great, this great data tech here. We've got this here, but there's a 2, 3, 4 hour delay, or there's that relies on John. There's only John that knows how to use that.
Yeah.
So I guess, would we say maybe auditing, well, if auditing's the right word for it, but auditing that sort of disconnect, and then bridging and putting somebody in charge of sort of speeding up, connecting. It sort of reminds me of, it's almost like, I think I used to run stores, we go, different lifetime, but we'd spend so much time acquiring computer components at such a rock bottom price. And we'd go right with $100,000 on 256
margins are like
256 meg memory sticks back in the day, and we'd buy however many thousand of them. We're like, yes, we've got the best price in the UK. We know we have. We've bought right. You've got a delivery within a day. Dollar rate's gone through the roof, so we bought at the old rate. We've got like 5%. Anybody buying today? But it's not on the website.
Exactly.
If it's in the back of the warehouse, sitting in the strong room.
We've
got the best, but you've got to promote it. You've got to get it out there. You've got to connect it with your audience or that particular segment in your email stack or your loyalty stack. That have looked at memory 15 times yesterday. That bought something associated with a motherboard but no memory. So using the technology that no doubt at a £20 million merchant, you've got that data there, but it's probably not
surfacing it.
It's not being used.
On the back of that, it's taking on that efficiency piece. It's around scheduling as well, because if you can be as efficient as you can be, but ideally what you should be doing is scheduling everything ahead of time. So if you've got stocks out there and you're thinking, right, next Monday at 7 a.m, I want 50 new lines going live. I want them discounted. I want them going into a category. I want the category to become available. I want a homepage banner. I want my navigation to change. I want maybe a merchandising rule to kick in so that all my categories are then merchandising in a certain way. And I want also an email, an SMS, and I want all my channels going live. But I don't want to get up at 6 a.m. and do that. So I want to schedule it all. So scheduling becomes incredibly important. Not just on the ability to, but also the efficiency you'll gain, because you're not having to spend that time doing that. Then you can schedule things a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in advance. Many of our merchants are doing that. So they're saying, okay, I've got Black Friday coming up, or Christmas, or whatever it is, or I'm going away on holiday. I don't want to have to log onto my phone and set up promotions to go live, or remove products from this category. So we focus a lot on the scheduling kind of capability, and I think that's really valuable to a lot of merchants.
It is, isn't it? As you're relying on maybe too many team members when somebody's off. It's quite obvious when you're saying it out loud sort of thing, but the reality is, scheduling can, there's a lot of change happening on the fly, isn't there? Whether that's new products, the seasonality. We just came out of a very big season for most retailers, so it's like, right, what's on the horizon now? Well, I think probably Valentine's is probably the next big event. Obviously, that's not for everyone, but depending on what you sell and also your personal life, it could. But it is obviously something that huge demand for certain products. But obviously scheduling, getting the team on board. So obviously that skirts around the different tech that can be used. So much tech. I think we've probably done 30, 40 episodes with different tech partners, and the majority that we love, but some of these guys, obviously, some of the tech out there, is not right for every merchant, depending on where that merchant is, whether at 5 mil, 10 mil, 50 mil, different tech, and depending on the products and, whether you've got retail stores and, etc. There's so many variables potentially, but, what would you say to companies that are sort of assessing tech, and assessing sort of investing in different areas of the tech stack? Have you got sort of a go-to sort of due diligence process?
Yeah. This is, a common thing I talk to clients about. It's about reviewing what you have and where the gaps are. So I think starting with the gap analysis is important. What's native out of your platform versus what are the third parties that need to be put in. So do that gap analysis first and look at where your opportunities are. And then in terms of choice of technology to use, I'd say it depends on what it is. Depends on the type of technology you're talking about. If it's a single, I guess, function like a site search, for example, most site search solutions will run some type of proof of concept free trial. So of course, do as often as those as you can.
Yeah.
But also A/B test a lot. So try and think about, okay, if we're going to do a site search, let's put 3 or 4 in the mix and let's review all of them and see how they all perform. Of course, they all will report performance in a different way. They'll all have their own ways of tracking and reporting. So
especially our trial, maybe.
So you have to have an anonymous way or a fair way of tracking performance over multiple solutions. So that's probably using a third party. So using GA or using something to track performance. So running proof of concept trials with as many third parties as you want, I think that's a good way of seeing what works and what doesn't work. Taking it back a little bit to that efficiency point of view, not everything is about just making more money singularly, because more money might sometimes mean actually just saving time. So, or connecting systems together. So if you've got a technology that is well connected, perhaps might not be the best performer in terms of average order value, but it might actually save your team loads of time and is quite cost effective. There are so many attributes to think about when you're choosing technology. It's not just which is going to make me the most money. The other part of it is always ask what the roadmap is for a technology. We have it a lot where, merchants will come to us and say, oh, that looks really cool, but is that what it is? And we're saying no, because look at the roadmap for the next 12 or 18 months.
Yeah.
So always ask a technology for what they're planning on doing and what their roadmap looks like.
One, isn't it? I think as a merchant, you don't really probably know what you don't know at that stage. You've gone from, you're sitting at 10, you're trying to get to 20, right? This, but hang on, then when you hit 20, what did we need?
Sure.
But obviously, if the potential partner you're speaking to has got experience of the different growth plateaus, targets, then they can talk to you about areas that you haven't thought about.
Yeah.
You might have gone from a strong retail background, built an eCom store, and all of a sudden this retail store, this eCom store is now doing 5x what all your retail stores are doing, and then you're closing retail stores maybe, and that's quite common. But hang on a minute, actually certain city centres and certain areas now are going to start opening stores again 5 years later. Maybe, we've had people on, we just had an episode a couple of weeks ago with 20 stores, 19, 20 stores, and they're opening more and more stores. Obviously when COVID kicked in, stores are shut, so the focus is the eCom. It's getting a balance between the two.
Yeah.
So it's understanding, what options there are for maybe things you think, well, we might not do that, but we might do that.
Yeah.
We just don't know what, a year in, a COVID year was like 5 years or whoever's you want to look at, so you're just not sure. It's great to have those options available to you. That could mean that you could do this or you could do that.
I guess good analysis as well of what is happening is really important. I don't think enough retailers focus on actually tracking performance.
Yeah.
If you run a promotion or you run a set of promotions, for example, and you look at, that promotion end, it's like, okay, well, we saw revenue uplift by a certain amount, and that's all you'll kind of look at. But actually, if you analyze the reporting of that promotion, of that campaign, and analyze how it compared with other campaigns of different natures, trying to analyze, I guess, what actual campaign promotion performance looks like to you and the impact on the greater business is actually vital, because you might find out that running a free delivery doesn't actually uplift anything, or it might be that stacking certain promotions in a certain way actually gets you the most conversion rate, for example. And every business is different. Like you can't say, oh, well, you know, a lot of our merchants will look at their other competitors and say, oh, they're running a 2-for-1 or they're doing something, so we're doing it. Yeah. That doesn't mean that your customers are going to engage with that. Yeah. And it also means that by launching that, you might then start to devalue the other stuff that's going on. Yeah. Or that you're trying to do. Yeah. Plus, sometimes the technology wouldn't even allow you to stack things. And that's the other. Yeah,
that's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, it goes back to that, you know, cost of acquiring customers. You know, I think, you know, a lot of people now, the 6-7 weeks of the busy season we've just come out of, you know, what cost have people gone out there to acquire? You know, smart guys, I think, are the ones that have stacked certain, you know, incentives. Yeah. If we want to maybe discounts, maybe, but usually, you know, the tiered things that have increased the average order value. So a lot to think about there. I think, you know, tech planning, tech partners, working with the right team, obviously crucial when you get to a certain size.
I think when you mentioned that about partners as well, like a lot of triggered something, like a lot of prospects that we talk to will say, the technology worked, it's fine, but we got nothing from the partner. Like, if you're in business and you're trying to grow, you need to lean on the people, to your point, that have done it before, that have done it with other businesses, or that have got a slightly different mindset to you, that are not in the trenches in your product, which you are as a retailer. So that's something that we try and do, and I know not many others do, but we try and actually, I guess, push back on and challenge appropriately on selection of certain things, or the running or trading, or the I guess even the roadmap of what you're trying to do as a retailer, like
questioning
it and actually saying, okay, let's plan ahead, let's look at the next quarter or the next year, what we're trying to do. Yeah. Actually have those, you know, review sessions with clients, and we see clients as often as we can, to really get into their business, to understand it. And if you're technology, if you're an agency, if you're standing away and not really listening and not really collaborating, I think collaboration actually is the most vital thing that both retailers want and ask for, but an agency or a technology like us should provide. Yeah. And not at a massive cost. Like, it just comes with it.
It's so key, isn't it? I think having, like, spending time with that potential partner, you know, and like when you go into the market, I mean, it goes back sort of 10, 15 minutes ago, you're going back to, you know, 3 or 4 options, whether that's for a platform or an email, loyalty, whatever it may be. You know, it's a big thing. You know, you go, yeah, we'll take that. Such and such uses that. We'll use that. Well, hang on a minute. Yeah. Hang on. Whoa. Just slow down. Yeah. You know, it's like nobody would ever walk into this business, go, yeah, we want SEO. We'll sign. Think, no. We wouldn't actually take your business. We wouldn't take your business, because we also need to make sure you're a fit for us. Yeah. You know, so we need to understand the business more. But then it's like, actually, hang on a minute. That's not actually what you need. This is what you need. Oh, okay. And so people can quite easily take the wrong thing just because somebody else is doing that thing, or it's maybe a short-sighted, like 6-month thing. Hang on, we're going to, before we know it, we're going to have out sort of perform that stack. We're going to need something that can do, you know, a lot more. So obviously you've worked with a lot of retailers, you know, and I'm really keen for you to sort of give sort of some inspirational ideas to our listeners. You know, I know you've worked with some big brands, you know, so I think there's some key maybe plateaus and key milestones in eCom, you know, hitting that first mil, hitting that first 5 mil, you know. So think about a client that you've maybe, that have hit a mil, if this is possible, and that have then hit a 20 mil, sort of things and the sort of thinking, the sort of strategies that you've implemented to take a client from 1 mil to 20 mil. It's a tough one.
Well, most of our clients come with us when they're about 5. Yeah. So that's the kind of, not the minimum, but roughly. Yeah. I'd say most clients come to us when they're sort of maybe 5 to 10, maybe. So if I think of a retailer that's done 5 and have grown quickly, so if I look at Roman as a good example. So Roman are a fashion brand, latest fashion wear retailer. And they came to us about 5 or 6 million. They were on Vendor, I think, as a platform. And they grew from 5 to, let's say 20 within about 2 years. They then grew from 20 to 50 within another 2 years. They went from 50 to 100. And last year, I think they did about 150 last year, maybe a bit more actually. So within 7 years, they grew from 5 million to closer to 200. And of course, as a technology provider, we have to ensure stability in the platform and the technology. Yeah. That's massively important for us. Efficiency and giving them the ability to run as fast as they want to run. Because if they want to run a promotion that goes live in 10 minutes time and it lasts for 2 hours, you can't have a technology stack that's got a million different other solutions that takes 45 hours to sync over.
Yeah.
So that efficiency in technology is important. I think them, for example, the things that they've done particularly well, in my personal opinion, are firstly buying. A site can be as good as possible and as quick as possible, but if it doesn't have good product, then it's not going to do well. Mm. So products and, of course, buying and merchandising is incredibly important. Merchandising, I guess.
So have they maybe gone from buying to setting up their own factory type scenario, or I guess they're well into that maybe if they're doing.
Yeah, I mean they've got their own product. Yes, yeah, so they do buy sensibly, and of course, looking into different categories as well is vital. Like we have some retailers perhaps not growing at that kind of speed. They're maybe only growing 10, 20, 30% every year.
Yeah.
Which of course it sounds great, but compared to our other clients that are doing double, triple digit growth, it's vital. So I think those retailers that have grown quickly have looked at other categories to sell into. So if you're a ladies wear brand, perhaps look at some other clothing types that you're not selling. Perhaps look at some other categories like, I don't know, kids wear maybe, or some other categories to look into. So diversifying in product, I think, is a really strong thing. The other thing I think that they've done particularly well is around proposition. So delivery proposition, trading proposition, understanding who their customer is. I think a lot of retailers think they know who their customer is without actually knowing who their customer is. Especially if you're a pure play retailer, you don't physically see your customers in a sense. You have these digital customers buying from you without really knowing who they are, perhaps. So doing a piece of work to understand who your customer is, and obviously having a good customer data platform and the technology needs to be there. But you need to understand who your customer is to sell to them appropriately, and sometimes that's not understood enough.
Yeah.
If you're in a really niche market, like if you sell maybe, I don't know, school uniforms, you know that your customers are going to be parents. Yeah. But if you just sell ladies wear, then who is your customer? What is their demographic? Who are they? What age are they? What are they into?
Yeah. No.
So I think understanding that is.
Anything specifically on the marketing track?
I mean, SEO. We focus a lot on SEO as a platform. SEO is the one channel. Not one channel. I'd say the main channel that grows the quickest when retailers replatform to us.
Yeah.
Working with partners like yourselves and with other agencies to understand what are the drivers around SEO and having the ability to customize your platform to work in an SEO friendly way is important. So yeah, I would say focus just on SEO to begin with. I've seen a lot of replatforms go poorly, or even just retailers start to go downhill because they're implementing stuff poorly. And SEO is a fickle.
I think that is a key one, isn't it? I mean, I know obviously we are an agency, but the amount of car crashes and huge, multi-million pound sort of car crashes we've seen, even last year, as one particular serious car crash comes to mind that we were told about after the car had unfortunately had hit. But it's just underestimating the amount of work that is needed to replatform on the SEO side, or certain work that just gets overlooked and doesn't get done. It's like, oh, I didn't realise that the agency wasn't bringing the X, Y, and Z over. Or who's doing this?
Yeah.
What do you mean there's no redirects?
It happens.
Yeah.
It does.
Totally. I could we could talk about that one for a while. So I think that's given everybody, a lot to think about. That sort of big thinking, which is a good time of year for that. Now, for you guys, what can you share that's on the roadmap for Remarkable Commerce this year?
There's a few things we're doing, we're focusing time on. So, of course, the ChatGPT stuff is important.
Yeah.
And taking again back to the efficiency piece, how can I create a product description based on an image?
Yeah.
So we've already built in some ChatGPT functionality as the platform natively, as of many, not all, but some. We're going to go deeper on that. So we've got a roadmap of automated functionality that we're going to be bringing into the core solution, which is cool. Subscriptions is also quite a big thing for us. Of course, other platforms, you can use plugins and add-ons and various things to do subscriptions. But what I found with subscriptions is they're often quite either they're done well or they're done not very well. And if you use some type of plugin or add-on, you can tell perhaps that, it loads it after 5 seconds or there's something a bit dodgy about it. So we're building in some subscription functionality into the native platform, which I'm really excited about. And I think it's going to also give our clients the ability to look at different business models as well, not just think about, direct D2C selling. Perhaps we could think about subscriptions in a B2B world as well. Maybe that's another angle. So yeah, subscriptions is the other thing. And the other thing is integrations with third parties. So we've got about 300 integrations into the platform. All of them, that said, all of them can be configured in any shape or manner. So going back to the whole reason of Remarkable, it's a third party doesn't work in one direct way. A third party can work in whatever capacity you want it to and can be as extended or as composed as you want it to be. So we're going to build on that list and we're going to add in an extra however many third party integrations into the platform just to give our merchants the ability to switch and change a little bit more.
Yeah.
And ultimately develop faster as well, because if those third parties are available, it means they can be deployed a little bit quicker. So
that's great. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me. I
like to finish every episode with a book recommendation. Have you got a book to recommend to our listeners, Brad?
I've got 4.
Blimey, 4. That's a new record, I think.
Well, I tried to think of one, but then, so I've got 2 work ones and I've got 2 personal ones.
Okay.
So my work one, I think someone did use this one before. It's the Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Great book. It talks about the whole marketing proposition, about how you position yourself and what your why is as a person, as a company. So Start With Why is good.
Yeah.
Never Split the Difference is another one.
Yeah.
Chris Voss, he is a great author. He's done a few, but I listened to the audiobook of that, and that was, really changed my mindset in terms of pricing, value, both in a sales capacity, but also in just in a personal life.
He's an ex-hostage negotiator, isn't he?
Yeah. And he talks about, giving yourself value and it's good. Yeah. It's good. And then on a personal note, I like Bob Mortimer. So his book, he's not his recent one. The one before was the Satsuma Complex. And he's a great comic, but that's more of a story about, I guess, again, values. It's about what you should kind of think about in life. It's good. Yeah. And the other one is The Storyteller by Dave Grohl, because,
Oh, yeah.
Foods are awesome.
Somebody bought me that the other week, actually.
It's a good one. That's more of an autobiography about his life. And
I started it on my last job. Well, 2 months ago, I had a little trip, so I got a bit into that, but it was very, very good.
Yeah. Again, inspirational. You take from it, everyone takes something different, but I took from that about, using what you have in life and having passion, which I think is important. Great guy.
Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks
for those that want to find out more about you, more about Remarkable Commerce, what's the best way to do that?
LinkedIn, probably. Drop me a message, and then remarkable.net. And then, good to talk to anyone.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast. You're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the next one.